Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a beach scene. We're going to be using palette knives and some other tools to create this effect. And I'll show you step by step how to do it from start to finish. I think this will be a good kind of beginner palette knife painting, hopefully. I've got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's man in chat for our live show, so if you have questions while I'm painting, you can ask those and I'll try to answer them. Let's get started. Alrighty, so I'm using a 9x12 inch canvas panel today. This is the Belgian Linen Pro series. I find that using canvas boards is really important for palette knife paintings. It's really hard to do it when you've got a stretched canvas because there's too much slack in it. So I would use a supported board of some sort. I've got a few tools that we'll be using, probably a sponge to do some of the texture underneath the water. And then we're going to be using some catalyst blades, some palette knives, a variety of sizes, just kind of whatever tools you have on hand that have a flat edge and can make some marks on our canvas. We'll also use a few brushes to do some of the background effects before we put some of the texture on top. So we've got a number 2 Redline paddle, and then we're going to use a, let's see, 8 bright, a Deerfoot stippler, a 1/4 inch Willows blender, and then a 3/8 inch angle brush. I'm just going to have those on hand. I'm not sure if I'm going to need them all, but I figured we might. And then there's a couple specialty products that I'm going to also use, but you can leave this part out if you don't have them. I've got a gloss gel, really any brand, but you can use a heavy body or a thinner gel if you want to have like a poured effect. You could use a self-leveling gel. I'm not going to do that because it's kind of messy, but I'm going to use the gloss gel tonight. And then I've got a coarse modeling paste for some of the sand over here. You could use something with a gritty texture or leave that part out. Like I said, you don't have to do any of that part. I'll show you kind of how to do it without it too. So, all right, I've got a few colors here I'm going to go over real quick. I've got my Cobalt Teal, Phthalo Turquoise, Phthalo Blue Green Shade, Ultramarine Blue, Dioxazine Purple, Phthalo Green Yellow Shade, Yellow Oxide, Burnt Sienna, Burnt Umber, Unbleached Titanium, and Titanium White. All right, so the first thing I want to do is just kind of tone my canvas. So I'm going to use this palette paddle and get a little bit of the Unbleached Titanium and a little bit of Burnt Umber. I'm going to kind of make a soft medium brown. Whoop. With this, and I'm even going to spritz my canvas one time. Whoop, it'll make it easier to absorb the paint on here. That's my hair on there. Getting that off before I start. And I'm just going to smush that on quickly.
I realized that we started the show with this scene.
With the what?
With this scene. We didn't have the reference photo at the intro.
Oh, yeah.
I was going, why does that say palette camera?
That's funny.
Because, yeah, so when we take some time off, we
lose it. We lose it. When we start taking time off, we kind of forget how to do anything.
Did you turn it off?
I did. I turned off the fan. Did you want it on?
No.
Okay. All right. So I don't want it too dark here because we're going to have water over here and things. So I don't want it, a ton of dark color underneath. But I do want it toned a little bit. I'm going to use a paper towel and just kind of wipe some of the excess off so we can get to work right away on our canvas. We don't have to wait for it to dry. I'm just using a paper towel here. It'll kind of leave behind the paint in the cracks, and then we can, there we go. All right, good enough. And if you want to, while we've got it, we might as well, right? Let's go ahead and just kind of dab on some texture down there in the water where that's going to be. Why not?
And then just don't wipe your face with it afterwards?
Yeah, be sure you don't blow your nose with it. Alrighty.
Then you'd have a brown nose.
What?
Then you'd have a brown nose.
No comment. Mark just got the look. Just got the look. Like, really?
Let's see, we're 5 minutes in. Check.
That's about right. That's about right. All right, so I'm going to use the sponge here. And what I'm going to do is just kind of do some of those rocks that are under the water. So I'm going to give a little texture. They're fairly dark, so I'm not going to worry too much about how dark this is. We're going to put some lighter color over the top. I don't want it super dark, though, so I can add a little bit of Cobalt Teal to it, maybe, to lighten it up. There we go. And I'm just going to kind of do it in sort of lines. This kind of does a diagonal right here. This is a drone shot, I think, from above. So it's kind of a different, I thought it was kind of a unique photo. Kind of be fun to try to paint it. All right. And I'm going to use the clean end to just dab off some extra color and kind of smooth it just a little bit. And it may lift off a little bit of my original color because it's still drying, that original brown, but that's all right. Kinds of variegated colors good in here. Very good. Okay. Let that dry.
Somebody wants to know if they don't have Cobalt Teal, is there a way to mix it?
You can mix it with white and these two colors, the Phthalo Blue and Phthalo Green, and white. So teal is good too, either one. Let me see if this is dry enough. I think it should be. Okay. So once this is kind of dry enough to the touch, I'm going to grab a fairly large palette knife and mix up some white with it. And I'm going to squeeze in a fairly good amount of this coarse modeling paste. It's going to go on white, so don't let that color affect, you know, how much white you put in here. You want a fairly good amount of white in here, probably half white and half unbleached titanium. I'm going to mix those together with this large knife here, and then I'm just going to scrape it on and leave. You can hear that grit in it. I don't know, I just thought it would probably work pretty well for this sand. And you can leave some texture in it if you want to. You can leave as much of that undercoat color showing as you want to as well. Just listen to that sound, isn't it? Just hear the sand happening.
You get the microphone down real close, and so we can just enjoy that.
Yeah, it's the
nails on the chalkboard.
ASMR, whatever that is.
Oh yeah,
you know, where they like the sounds.
Oh yeah.
This is it here. Sensory. Okay, I'm just going to, and you can see how much I needed. You know, I pretty much needed a pretty good amount there. I probably have about a teaspoon at least, maybe two, of paint, and then I added about equal part coarse modeling paste for this. And if you have another kind of paste that you like I said, you could even add sand to your paint. You could sprinkle wet sand onto your wet paint. It'll stick right to it, and you can mix it into your paint as well. So if you don't have coarse modeling paste, but you have a clean sand from Sandbox or something, you know, you want it inert, so you don't want any kind of chemicals are in there that are going to affect your paint. But I'm just going to put kind of a, I'm actually smoothing it out quite a bit. Here you can't see, but I'm kind of doing almost like a stucco effect on it. And I want to bring it all the way up in here. There's some rocks that are going to be coming down over the top of it, so we want And I can let it start breaking up over here. But I want to bring it all the way down to meet up with my water.
And you can use a palette knife when you're doing it like on a mixed media.
And I'm what? I'm what?
When you're doing it on like a mixed media paper, you can use a palette knife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
Well, you just have to be careful that you don't tear the paper.
Right.
It could tear. So
you have something hard.
I might not use a gritty textured, medium like this on it, just in case. But all right, so I think that's good. We're just going to kind of create a broken line there at the shoreline, like maybe the rocks are kind of coming up to meet the sand there, and that'll be good enough. And you can see how it's fairly flat. There's just a little bit of texture. You can see it there. And I might just kind of go through and do one last kind of sweep through and kind of angle it so that it's sort of coming down this way. Okay. And if you don't have the model in place or don't want to use the texture, just use regular paint and do the same thing, just use paint. And it'll leave a little texture if you use a heavy body acrylic, so you'll still get a similar effect. It just won't be as gritty looking. So it's a subtle effect, but I figured I hardly ever get out my mediums to use in the YouTube videos, so I thought it'd be a fun one to try it.
It's been a long time since I've fit into a medium.
Since what?
I fit into a medium.
Yeah, me too.
But my kids did get me a medium shirt for my birthday or Father's Day.
On purpose. That was pretty cold, actually.
I filled it out nicely.
That was pretty cold. What did it say?
World's greatest farter. It was supposed to be father, but it was crossed out.
I have a picture of you in it, too. It was pretty awesome.
You can show it. That's fine.
I don't know. I have to find it.
Okay.
It's going to take me a minute.
Well, maybe if I'm drawing.
Yeah, maybe later. We'll leave people in the suspense here. Let them anticipate the glory of the best farter shirt.
If they've seen my award-winning Christmas sweater picture,
yeah,
they won't be disappointed.
Yeah. That's true. You did win our ugly Christmas sweater contest. First ever. That was way back in, when was that? I don't even know. Okay, let me get back to painting here. So I mixed up my blues and a little bit of purple, just kind of a dark-ish color. I think I threw in some teal in there too. And I'm going to kind of create some shadows in my rock ledge, and there's just some kind of shadows happening in here, so I'm just not going to get too fussy with this, but I'm just going to create a few little shadows, and I'm kind of keeping them on this side, so I've loaded more paint on this side than the other side, and I'm just going through here, and most of this is all going to be covered up by a glazed layer, so it's going to be, we're just kind of wanting a little bit of detail showing through when we add the other colors on top. Just a little bit of depth here. And some lines in the rocks. Okay, up in here we can do a little bit darker. Okay, then up in here, I'm going to go ahead and use the same brush here and grab some of that burnt umber and some of my Ultramarine Blue. I'm going to make a dark gray. And I'm going to add a little bit of purple just to make it even darker. Turquoise and purple also make a really great black. And we'll use this as our base for our rocks. So I will start coming in here, and I'm just going to go over the top of this. It's going to lift some of that off there. I need to put in my rocks before that dries. And I probably could have done this first and then put my sand in, but I didn't think of it, so. There we go. Just trying to get some dark up there.
Somebody's asked, do you know if their acrylic mediums have lost some of their moisture? Is there any way to try to rehydrate them?
I've tried. It's pretty much not. It's kind of a lost cause. I've added like acrylic medium into it before, like squirted some of the airbrush medium, or really any of your polymer mediums, depending on what kind of paint it is. You could probably add use a just a regular gloss medium too, if it's a heavy body acrylic or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and put in some of these rocks that are going to be on the shoreline here, some shadows for where these are. That water there. But it didn't work very well for me, so if anybody else has a better idea, I don't know. But I tried to add it to my bottle and shake it up, and it was better than nothing, but it didn't really ever recover it fully. It was still pretty dark, or pretty thick and kind of clumpy, so it just never did quite recover. All right, we get some green and some purple and do a really dark green back in here. A little bit of green. I'm not going to try to do that palm tree with the palette knife. I don't think there's a way to make it look good. At least I don't know. I don't know. I'm not really picturing it looking really great with the palette knife, so I'm not going to try to attempt to do it. I'm chicken, so I'm going to leave it out. But I will do some foliage over there. Uh-oh, I just dropped some water on there. I didn't want to do that. Okay, trying to keep these wet before I get to clean them. All right, so this is all dry down here. Got my rocks up here. Let's go ahead and put in just a few more. Actually, let me use the brush. I'm going to use the 3/8 inch angle, a little bit smaller one. I'm going to grab some of the burnt umber and some burnt sienna, burnt umber, unbleached titanium. And I'm going to use it to make some rocks down in the water. So I'm just going to kind of use the tip of it and sort of create some of these little pebble rocks that are under the water. They're a little bit lighter than these ones on top, so I'm not putting the full dark color on them. So I'm going to put some of these that are going to be underwater. I'm going to go just a little bit lighter on them. Go around these ones that are submerged and add some of the lighter color that's going to be peeking through under the water. Let's get some of the little bit darker color. Go ahead and just dab in some dark shadows along the rocks, along the shoreline there. And we're doing all this kind of under color to lay the story for our bigger rocks that are going to go on top. So we kind of need to have some color there. I'm going to go ahead and just try to scrape that off right there where that big old rock's gonna go. So I can get that color on to stick. It's not wanting to stick on top of that wet. There we go.
Can say hello to everybody.
Yeah, hey guys. Sorry, I just jumped right in, didn't I?
Yeah.
I do that. I do that.
Well, that's okay.
Glad to have you joining us today.
Yes.
We are about to have chaos descend on our house this week, so it's going to be...
It's trickling in.
It's trickling in slowly, but the stress is starting to sink in that we're actually going to be having to move the entire studio out by next weekend. So
Yeah, it'll be basically stripped down except for
the bare essentials.
Bare necessities to do 2 shows next weekend.
Mm-hmm. 2 shows, and everything's being carted off, and they're redoing the floors, painting, and we're moving to a bigger room. So everything's being moved over there, so it'll be interesting. So we're posting. I took a bunch of pictures of the before, and we'll be posting pictures of the after we get it done. So if you want to follow along, we're going to be posting those on my Thankful Art group and on Facebook. So you can also join my newsletter if you join the Thankful Art newsletter on my website. You know what? I just realized that it goes all the way to that corner. There's a big old rock right here that I missed. So I'm going to go ahead and scrape that off right there. And I'm just going to put that paint on there. Okay, there we go. We need that paint on there. It's actually kind of greenish over there. I'm going to use a little bit of this green for the undercolor. Okay, there we go. Alright, so I'm going to use this big old paddle, I think. Try to get in as much areas as I can with this big old paddle here, but we're going to get the gloss gel out. So we want this background to be pretty much the way we want it to look when it's finished, or underneath, because now we're going to do our top layers. So this is going to be our water layer, and we're going to do it with the glazing. We're going to glaze it on fairly thickly so that we get a really thick layer of transparent medium, and I'm going to use this entire dollop of teal with it. Well, what it's going to do is create this beautiful translucent layer on our canvas. This is going to be awfully thick. I probably didn't need that much paint. Now that I'm mixing this, I realized that a little bit of paint goes a long way with this glazing medium. Let's see if it's thin enough to see through. Not really. Okay, so we need more. Too much paint. Okay. I'm gonna lay that straight on there, try to get that off there. There we go. Okay. And let's see how much of this I'm gonna need. I don't think I'm gonna need very much of it. Yeah, that even, I'm mixing it straight on here.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it'll work. It's just kind of like icing a cake. It's messy. Yeah, okay, I think that's gonna work. And this gloss gel is slightly white, but it'll be completely clear once it dries. So keep that in mind too. All right, I'm gonna smush it on there. You could even probably use a cake, cake.
So that's a gloss medium that you're
Gloss
using?
medium.
Liquitex?
Yep, Liquitex gloss medium. There we go. Ooh. And as we get to this shoreline, we want it to disappear, so I'm going to use a little bit less of it. Down here, I'm going to be a little bit thicker with it. Be a little cloudier. A little bit darker. Deeper color.
So now you're doing this method. I really like it because you're doing different mediums and textures.
Yeah.
Kind of break out of the norm.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be able to do kind of a glazing?
Yes, you could use glazing medium. Mm-hmm. You could use glazing medium and your heavy body acrylic. And most people will have that, if you've been following my tutorials, we've used that a lot. So.
And if anybody needs any paint, we got a whole glob over here for about 30 people.
Yeah, I've got plenty over here for about 12 paintings. I don't know what I was thinking there. Well, I was thinking that it was going to take more to achieve the translucency than it did. It's pretty much went on pretty thin already. So I'm going to grab some of this and try to get it up in here. And kind of go around some of the rocks that I've put. Some of them I'm going to go over the top, and really, if you go over the top of it, you can always add back in. We're going to go with the rocks. We're going to be fairly thick with them, with the paint over the top, so we don't have to be too. But we do kind of want to move quickly enough that it's not going to dry over here. We don't want these layers to dry before we can get the effect smoothed out that we want. But I'm going to go ahead and let that paint break up. You see how it's doing? And make some kind of almost like waves in it. So go right up over the rocks. And this kind of transparent, glossy, using the gloss, I think is a key for this effect to make it look right, I think. Like, I wouldn't try to use a matte medium for it. I don't think it would look the same. Here. Could use a credit card for this probably. If you don't have the catalyst blade, you could, cut something that was a similar shape. Or I think a palette knife would probably work too. So let's let those waves kind of break up on that shore there, on those rocks. Going right up to almost over right there. Okay, so I'm going to try to lightly skim across with no paint on here. Just try to kind of lightly skim across so that I can kind of smooth out that whole area right there. So they all look sort of part of the same wave pattern. There we go. And then probably could have gone even darker with the color underneath. I'm going to try to skim some of that off so I can see it a little bit better under there. Here we go. Look at that. Cool. Don't let it go too long before you do your layers up here, because you don't want it to dry on you. So I'm going to get some clear, and I'm going to get a smaller paddle. I'm going to scrape off some of this colored with the clear, so I have a little thinner color up closer to the shore. And I'm going to go right up over that across my wet. And it's dry enough now, it's not lifting really into this layer. You can see through it. Right over. There we go. It's actually not too hard. I don't work with palette knife a whole lot, so I'm not like particularly adept at it. So if I can do it, you can do it. I feel like, I am by no means a palette knife expert.
And you don't
but
cook,
I enjoy it.
And you don't cook much either, so you don't have a lot of experience with it there.
Hey, now.
I'm just saying. I'm just letting everybody know that, you're not bringing skills from other things.
I can frost a cake.
You can frost a cupcake. That's all that matters. You know
Wow.
you know what you have to do to make me happy.
Yeah,
a good frosted cupcake.
Yeah.
Boom, done.
Boom.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. All right, so I think I'm going to call that good. I've got lines in it. I don't know if you can see that. They're all kind of going in this long kind of thing. And if you want to, you can, go back in and make them a little bit more wavy. I might go in here and just kind of add just a little bit more. I'm kind of almost just wiggling it a little bit, especially up in here, maybe right around my rocks. Now I can tell it's starting to dry because it's sort of lifting off, so I don't need to mess with it anymore. So you can make it as turbulent as you want in your water there. I'm going to kind of smooth out just a little bit more, but there we go. I'm liking this so far, so I need to let that dry. That's going to have to not be messed with while it's drying. So we're going to work on our rocks, and we're going to hope for the best. I may have to give this to Mark to let it dry. Ideally, you would let it dry overnight. I wouldn't, normally like put a hairdryer on try to dry it with a hairdryer, but we may have to today. We'll see how well it does. But for the most part, this part down here is going to be done. We just need to add our whitewash, our kind of waves breaking on the rocks. So that part, I'm not sure exactly how much of that we're going to be able to do if this is wet still. So we'll just hope for the best here. Let me clean up this brush. And for the most part, our rocks are just going to be done with the palette knife. So I'm going to get the small palette knife out, and I think, and maybe this one, and I think most of them can be done. We're going to do them just with the paint. We're not going to use the medium. Oh my God, look at that huge glob. I'm going to have to get a little container. In fact, no, never mind. I'll get it later. I've got a container that I'll put that in. I'll have to use it for another painting. All I did, this is why you...
it's about 2 tubes worth of paint.
Well, I was going to say, you can use the gloss medium. That was a perfect example of it. You saw how it basically, I added equal parts gloss medium to paint, and it just doubled the amount of paint that I had on my canvas. You need to use about 10 parts of this to 1 part paint. I didn't remember that, so I forgot how well it does, there's a lot of artists that actually use it to extend their paints. for that very reason. It does really well for yeah, I'm just gonna have to like scoop that all up and use that later for another. We'll have to do another palette knife painting. This is enough for a very large canvas, so we'll be all set. And I might, you know, have decided to do another layer here. I don't know. I kind of have a feeling this may be a little bit opaque. We might not be able to see a whole lot of that seashore, but you can kind of see what's going on underneath. We lost a lot of our detail down there. We'll see how it looks once it starts to dry. It's hard to tell with the glazing medium in there. It does have a little bit of opacity in it, a little bit of whiteness. So once it dries, it'll dry clear and we'll be able to see through it a little bit more. I think it'll be a little bit more translucent than it is right now. Alrighty, so let's mix up. I'm going to use yellow oxide and burnt umber and a little bit of, well, let's go ahead and use a little bit of my Cobalt teal with the yellow. Create a green. That would be nice for the rocks. And then I'm going to mix up kind of equal parts of the brown and unbleached titanium here, burnt umber and unbleached titanium. And I'm going to add a little bit of the ultramarine blue to make it gray. There we go. It's a pretty color. You could also add the grit to these. These rocks were kind of smooth, so that's why I chose not to do the grit for them, but you definitely could if you wanted to make the rocks kind of gritty too. You could totally do the add the medium to them. Okay, I'm going to use some purple and burnt sienna to create a reddish purple tone. And then I'm going to use white. And let's use a little bit of my turquoise to tone that down and make it more grayed out. Grabbed a little bit too much turquoise there. So it's kind of a purpley gray color there. Pull it over here. Let's use some more of the burnt sienna with some burnt umber over here. Still got a little bit of that purple color in it. I'm just going to get several different kind of colors of brown that we can use in these rocks before, kind of mix them up beforehand so we can move quickly once we start doing the rocks. There we go. Okay. Let's go ahead and use some of the unbleached titanium with this color. This is that purple, burnt umber, or I'm sorry, burnt sienna, burnt purple, and turquoise. Yeah, that's going to be a really good rock color right there. It's got that yellow in that unbleached titanium, kind of toned down that purple, the purple tones. Put it out some more of my unbleached titanium. I really need to just move this whole thing of teal out of the way. It's just taking up this whole thing. It just cracks me up. I cannot believe I made that much of that. I totally overestimated the amount of teal that I needed there. Like by a lot. By a lot. What?
People always comment how little paint you use.
I know.
So you're making up for about 200 videos
I
there.
am right there. I made up for it. I used half a bottle of the medium there. Okay, I'm gonna scrape off these other colors so I have some room to work with. Some previous layers here. Apologize for the noise. Let me spray it with water. It'll come up a little bit easier. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now we'll get some room to work with. All right, so let's start putting in some rocks here. I'm going to start with kind of some medium values and just sort of lay in the groundwork for where some of these are going. So right here, there's one. One going across here. Grab some of the highlight color, put that on there. And it looks like our light source is kind of coming from this side, maybe. It will, you know, we're looking straight down, so it's kind of hard to tell. It may just be completely overhead. I'm going to grab that burnt umber there and mix up some more of the ultramarine blue with it. Make a dark gray. Okay. Grab some ultramarine blue or unbleached titanium there and use that. So I'm going to try to leave some of that dark undertone between these rocks. So I'm going to lay in the larger ones and then we can go in and add some of the smaller ones in between some of the areas. But if you flatten out the paint a little bit and then kind of scrape it either on the tip or on the side, you can have a little bit more control. So I can use the tip to kind of draw out some of the outside boundaries, and then on some larger areas I can use the flat side that's scrape it this way. But this one I have a little bit more control just using that squared tip, and since these rocks are fairly angular, I'm gonna go ahead and use that tip to draw in some of these, and then I'm going to go back in here and just while it's still wet, just grab that lighter color and kind of throw in some highlights on one side of some of these. Getting it on the tip there, just kind of dragging it on. It's pretty easy to make rocks using the palette knife. It's actually your eye automatically sort of sees the texture that is automatically created by the palette knife shapes, and it really easily kind of identifies it as a rock. So they're pretty fun to do with the palette knife because they just sort of almost fall off the knife for you. You can see already with very little effort we've already kind of got some rocks shapes going on there. So let's go ahead and put a big one up in here. And I'm going on fairly thick. I'm not really letting it break too much because these rocks are fairly smooth. But if you want to make them more kind of like rugged looking, you can kind of skip and drag it so that it breaks up a little bit more and you have a little bit more kind of a variegated tone in your rocks. So it's up to you however you want to do it. Down in here, let's go ahead and grab some of this color. Just going to do some different colors on some of these different ones so that I have, you know, different areas of colored rocks. Not all going to be the same exact color. Let's grab some green. Mix some green into some of this brown. Use that over here. These ones have a lot of green in them. And this should be getting dry, sort of. Ish. So.
We got plenty of blue paint to put over it if it isn't.
Thank you. Thanks for that tip.
We might paint one of the walls in the new studio with it. I think
so. We might need to. Mark loves it when I do stuff like this. Then he can make fun of me.
See, everybody, she is human. She's not an art robot.
No, definitely not.
Sent from the future to make your life miserable.
I know. To make you feel inadequate that you're painting. Yeah. No. Yeah, we had a conversation in my group. You know, somebody was commenting how they were feeling frustrated because, you know, that they were having a harder time at the tutorials than I do, you know, painting the same paintings. And I think that there's a notion in art, and I've seen it a lot with adults who learn to paint, you know, that they should be able to like skip all of the learning steps and just kind of go straight from deciding that they want to paint to being able to paint, you know, and like not have to actually do the work that it takes to actually learn a new skill, you know. And so it just takes time. It's just like any skill that you would learn, you know. If you're going out to learn an instrument, you wouldn't play it for the first time and say, oh my gosh, I'm so bad at this, and just give it up. But, you know, for some reason with art, there's this notion that if you're not innately talented at it, that you can't do it, you know, or there's something wrong with you. And it's just not true, you know. It just means I struggled just like everybody else to learn this, you know, but I've been doing it for 30 years, almost nonstop. And so it's just going to be easier for me naturally, just like a musician would be, you know, a seasoned musician would have an easier time of it than if I tried to, you know, pick up a guitar and play alongside. Would not go well for the first couple years probably, you know. So you just got to know that going in, you know, that it might be a frustrating proposition, but you know how much, you know, if you really want it, it's totally worth the effort, you know. And there's so much joy to be had. And if you, I would say, you know, if you are serious about learning to paint, I would not try to start out with a painting that is really difficult. Like I have a lot of beginner level paintings that are going to make the process of learning it so much smoother. You'll have much more, you know, early success and get some confidence, learn the medium a little bit, you know, more slowly. It's kind of like learning your scales in piano or, you know, in a music. I go back to music, but it's very similar. You know, any kind of time you're learning something, you know, a lot of times they'll have you kind of do some basics. So if you start out with some basic paintings, you're going to have more confidence, and you're going to build up those skills that you need to do the harder paintings later on. So I would say just, you know, don't Not that you shouldn't challenge yourself, but just, go slowly. Build up those steps gradually. Don't jump into the deep end of the pool and expect yourself to swim,
So beginner skiers shouldn't take the Olympic downhill course first try?
Right. Exactly.
Really?
Exactly.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Or
so
if you're learning
that's
to run,
my 2 cents about it. I've really, what? Go ahead.
I was just say, if you're learning to run, don't enter the triathlon the first time.
Right. Yeah. If you're
Or
going to do a
second time.
marathon, don't do the
You might want to try the 5K first,
exactly.
work your way up.
Or practice for a few, months before you jump in and do it. Unless you're Maggie, Nathan's girlfriend. But she's naturally athletic, and she's young, so she did her first half marathon on a whim. Just, I think I'll do it. And did great. So it's funny. I wouldn't suggest it though for the unseasoned. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Anyhow, I love this. Isn't it looking neat? I love all that's going on here. We're already getting some really cool rock looking. Definitely looks like rocks, I think. It's definitely working. So cool deal. I need some more brown. I've got plenty of turquoise, but I don't need it. I need brown. Get some burnt sienna and some more ultramarine blue. Ouch. Let me get out my little.
So if people don't have palette knives and things like that, they can click the link down below the video to go to the Brush Guys.
Yes, the Brush Guys has the palette knives that I'm using.
And you can,
These 3 at least. They have these 3 on my list right here.
and they get the spatulas too, don't they?
Yes, and they have the catalyst blades. These ones for sure.
And you get 5% off with the code Angela
Fine art.
Fine Art.
Yep.
All one word.
Yes, all one word.
Maybe the lady at the construction place will get your email address right sometime.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We had.
But anyways,
Yeah.
let's stay out of trouble.
I called in to get our thing going for, we have to order some stuff and they have to do a credit check on you, so that you have a running tab basically while the builder's going in there and getting stuff. And so called her over the phone and she was going to email me the information. And I told her my email address, angelafineart@gmail.com. And she was trying to make a name out of it. I knew it. I told Mark, and even, I was like, she thinks it's a name because she repeated it 4 times, and I even spelled it out for her, and she still put an E on the end of fine art. And then I don't know how it still didn't get to me. So I don't know what, I have no idea. I called her 3 times and I never did get it. So we ended up having to go down in person and fill out the thing. It was very frustrating.
So 20th century.
I know. Yeah. I was come on,
really?
people. I have things to do. I don't have time to actually get in my car. It was so hard. I had to sit in my car and do this. Push some buttons.
Wait a minute. I drove you down there.
Yeah, it's true. I didn't even have to drive it. You're right.
Exactly.
You're right.
Well,
spoiled.
What do they call those people?
What?
No, I can't remember it.
What people?
Oh, oh man.
I have no idea what you're
I
talking about.
know. They're so impressed with themselves. They can be bothered. I'll
I don't know.
I'll think of it.
You're trying to insult me, I can tell.
I've lost it.
It didn't work.
Yeah, I lost. Yeah, I know. God came down and said no.
I was. It's just it reminds me of that skit with that comedian that we like. Nate Bargatze, where he talks about ordering iced coffee with milk.
A diva, that's what it is.
Diva. Am I a diva? I probably am.
Yeah, can you drive me down to the hardware store?
That is not
please?
how it went at all.
That's true. So this is how it went. Hey, I'm going to go to Lowe's to get some storage crates. We never made it to Lowe's.
No, we
We
didn't.
drove all over the state.
We did. We went and we went an hour that way and an hour the other way.
Anyways, we had fun.
We did. We did good yesterday. Having to order. There's a lot of stuff that we got to order to get this construction going. It's going to be an interesting couple months. I figure it's going to be going on until Christmas. That's what. So, prayers will be accepted. Any prayer, any and all prayers be gladly accepted. But we're really happy to be able to do it. We need it. Our house is 17 years old and it shows it. We haven't ever done any renovating since we moved in. So, all right. Let me see here. So I mixed up some more of that black, brown, burnt umber, ultramarine blue right here. And then I've got kind of variations of it in here, a little bit of like different tones of it. So I'm just kind of mixing up some different ones here so I can kind of keep on working here. And not really telling you exactly every rock. You can kind of see what I'm picking up, hopefully, from the video. But, oh, okay, you're zoomed in. There we go. Hello. So I'm going to do a little bit like darker color on the side here so that it looks like it's kind of sticking up in the middle maybe. So do a little darker color over here and over here, going down into the water there, and then get some of that lighter color to put up in here. See how that did? Having the darker on this side, and then the two lighter spots, that pulls that rock right up forward towards us. Makes it look like it's higher than the rest of it. It's a nice little trick. I'm gonna get some white and just do even more right there. Boom. Catching the light. Okay, let's do a little bit on this one. It's a little bit. This is getting dry enough that I think we'll be able to do art. And it's actually, you can kind of see how it is drying clearer. You're starting to see some of those rocks and things underneath there. So I'm glad we went as dark as I did on here. I wasn't sure if I was going too dark, but it definitely needed it. Let me know if you guys like this kind of a painting. If you do, leave me a comment. I don't do a whole lot of palette knife paintings, but if you guys like these, I would love to do some more. So let me know. I'd like to get the feedback from you. If you're going to do it, if you like it, you know, if you hate it, let me know that too. Just be nice about it, please. But if I'm talking too much about other things that I know, I'm sorry. It's pretty much how it goes with us. So nothing new there. We know we talk too much. We're probably going to be talking a lot about the house, so I apologize in advance. We'll be griping about all of our building woes to y'all. Alright, so now using our highlight colors, now that some of these initial layers are drying, adding some highlights to some of these rocks that we've already kind of put down. Trying to make them look raised a little bit. And I'm really just kind of skipping around. There's no rhyme or reason to where I'm putting these highlights, so just kind of pick the spot that kind of seems the most obvious to you here. Just adding some little details to some of these. Doesn't have to be really perfect. Some of these are kind of sticking up a little bit right here. This one looks like it's sticking out of the water, so we'll go ahead and give it a little highlight too right there. This is looking good. I'm liking this. I'm happy with it. I was not 100% sure that this was going to work, the meeting up at the shoreline, but I think just going really transparent there is the key. Making sure that you can see through and having that broken layer here and the between where this initial layer met, you know, the sand layer, letting it break up here so that it's not like a straight line that you're trying to cover, and then letting this kind of break up over the top with that glaze. That gives it that really natural look there. So I think that that's the key, is just kind of keeping that line broken, not doing a straight line there, just making sure that where that sand meets the water is a broken edge. Wavy kind of. I like this. This is fun. This is actually really fun too. It's kind of therapeutic. Get out the knife and just kind of scrape around. Feels like I don't know, every time I get out of the palette knife, I feel a little bit like a kid. You know, it kind of just takes, I don't know why, it just kind of makes me feel sort of a little bit more, I think because it's less controlled, so you kind of have to let go a little bit, you know, just let things happen and not so tight about it. Just let it kind of be a little more spontaneous with it. Grab some of that green before it dries. I'm going to spray this just to moisten that up. And I don't want this to dry on me. No, it's not drying. This one knife is actually working pretty good for this, so I'm probably just doing the whole thing with this. Let's do some yellow. Some of these. Grab some of this whitish color here. Find some rocks in the middle there. These are getting kind of jumbled here, so I don't know. Actually, there's kind of a big one in here that I'm kind of lost, so I think I'm just gonna combine some of these marks and make a bigger rock out of this, and just use some of that darker color along the side to separate it. There we go. Give it kind of a triangle right there. Let's do a different color right there so we can kind of tell it's a different part of the rock. There we go.
Maybe this rock needs a little friend. Just right here.
That's where his friend lives. You doing your Bob Ross interpretation there?
Yeah, you were whispering.
I was whispering like Bob Ross did.
A little happy little rock right here.
Yeah. I don't know why I do that. They get into that Zen zone.
Because you're creating.
Yep. Okay, so let's grab some of this lighter color here. Do it along the top of this rock right here. Bring that up. And then do a little bit more on this one too. Right along there. Okay. And I'm going to use the edge of my knife, and you can kind of score in and make marks too. Scrape off paint if you need to. Scrape through. And there is some of this turquoisey paint up in here. It's pretty transparent, so I'm gonna literally just have a tiny bit of that paint on here. Mostly glaze or gel medium. There we go. I'm going to go up in here. There's some areas of the water that are seeping between these rocks here. Get some of that in there. Okay. So let's just do a few more. I'll go ahead and use this more rounded one. We'll get some more like rounded tips on some of these rocks. So it's probably some of these smaller boulders that are tucked in here can be a little bit more rounded. Adding some highlights to these ones that we've already done. They're starting to dry, so it's perfect time to add some highlights. Sorry, Anna, I didn't know I was off camera there. Thanks. Yeah, this is turning out pretty good. I think the main thing is to make sure that you have nice dark areas in here. Otherwise, it's just going to look like a bunch of, you know, a bunch of brown blobs. So you need to leave some of that dark in between to give it some depth. Shadows, yeah. I'm just going to and we can kind of rough up a little bit, add some of the kind of medium dark, just a little bit of the unbleached titanium there, kind of dirty up that edge along the side of the rock, so you know it's not perfectly clean. There's some like little sand and shells and things that are caught up in here, so you can just kind of add a little bit there, a little bit of grit there. Okay, and leave some lighter, some darker. Gives it some interest, draws your eye around the canvas. They're not all going to be the same. Some are in shadow, some of them are poking out a little bit higher, so. Okay. Let's get some of this purple color and add it to the yellow. Added some shadow sides to some of these rocks that need it. So we got a highlight here, so we can add a shadow side on one side of some of these. I don't know what's happening in here, so I need to like make some sense out of that. I feel like that needs to happen right there. There we go. A little bit of white here. Okay, I think that's good. Let's use our stipper. Actually, let's go ahead and use this brush. I think this will work for our green. I'm going to use the green and the Unbleached Titanium, or some of the yellow oxide and green. Here I'm going to grab some turquoise and do a little bit of turquoise with that color too first. And I'm just going to, you can see how I kind of tapped it, and I'm going to tap on here. Just like that. Let's grab some of that lighter color, some white, so it'll really brighten it up. And I'm not really fully mixing these, so they've got all kinds of different colors in here. Use a little bit of it over here. That looks cool, doesn't it? Fun. This is really turning out good. I like it. Love how this is working. That is, you know, the more and more it dries, the more you're seeing those colors underneath really emerge. Okay, so now I think this is dry enough. Pretty happy with all of that. I'm going to grab my, let's see what knife I want. Let's go ahead and use this one. And I need a clean spot. I need to clear off my white area. I need some white, and I want it to be nice and bright. A large area to work with. I really am liking this palette. It's nice to be able to clean it like that while I'm working, you know, and not have to get a new page. So thanks again to Lindsay. I think it's Lindsay, right? Send it? No? Was it Lindsay or Leslie? Oh, I should know that. Whitney. I know her last name.
Lori Whitney?
Let me look. Let me look. I think I have it written down on the back of this. Lori. Lori. Why did I get Lindsay?
I remembered.
Lori.
So the different gel mediums and the sandy paste stuff, where can you get that?
I do have them listed in my Amazon store. I think, I'm not sure if I have the Coarse modeling paste, but they have them on Amazon. They also have them on, you know, basically any art supply store you can, you know, find.
Okay,
but I
so
do, if you use our Amazon store, you
click the link down below the video.
yeah, you can click the link
Amazon,
down below.
and there's
It helps support our channel.
Yeah, there's like 3 stores, right?
What?
There's like 3 different stores. There's an art store.
Yeah, there's a Christmas one. There's just a miscellaneous one, and there's a art.
Okay,
one.
it'll be under there.
So there's like maybe 4. I don't even know. I don't know. I might use this one actually. I think it might have a little bit more control. Maybe, yeah, let's use this one. So I'm going to use the white and I'm going to tap it into it just like I did before with the greenery. And that creates that kind of gummed up kind of thing on here. It allows it to kind of go on a little bit broken. And if I tap it on here, it'll kind of have a similar look. You could use zinc white. I thought about using zinc white for this. I decided to go ahead and go with the titanium white because I felt like it was gonna cover better. So, but that's up to you. If you wanted to use zinc white, you totally could. It would be a little bit more transparent. So I don't know. It might have been a better choice. Who knows? Oops, I did that in the wrong spot there.
Somebody wants to know, is the palette knife doing any damage to your glass palette?
No. Nope. I mean, you're using the razor blade on it, so that's going to do more damage than the palette knife. But no, it's not. It's not at all. These are smooth. They're not rough edged, you know. They're not like a knife or anything. So not like a cutting knife, you know. So you're not going to hurt yourself if you run your finger on it. So it's not going to damage the glass any more than it would hurt your finger, you know. Glass is a lot more durable than your finger would be. Okay, see how we're doing like that? Letting it break up. And I'm just going to kind of drag it out a little bit. This feels so weird. It feels like gum almost, you know. Like, I don't know, I can't explain it. Huh? Yeah, it's really cool. Okay, so see what we're doing here? Just letting it kind of catch some of these raised edges. I didn't really intend for it to be that big right there. Don't freak out about it. You could see how I kind of, if you wait for that undercoat color to dry, you can actually kind of tap it off a little bit. I wouldn't do that too much because you don't want it to, you know, it can affect the look, but you can get a little bit of it off there. Let's keep on going here. So I'm going to go right up along that edge right up there, the shoreline, and add right up in front of that blue layer. And I don't want to cover it up too much, so don't cover up all that really pretty transparency that we've got going on, but do kind of add a little bit of white along it. Let's do a breaker right here. So I'm going to set it down and just kind of drag it down. And we've got all kinds of texture happening in my thing, so it's just doing the work for me. It's really easy to do this. Getting a really cool textures just by dragging it. Okay, now for this part, I'm going to load it a little bit differently. I'm going to scrape it to one side so I have a little bit more on one side. And I'm going to drag it this way. I'm going to kind of go along this edge here where I want it a little bit thicker. Use that tip and kind of just draw my line. Actually, I want it up there. Down to here. And I'm going to drag it out and let it break as I go down with it. Let it break up. You could do as much of this as you want. But I'm pretty happy with that. I don't think I want to do a whole lot more. Let me add a little bit of that. I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit of my transparent. Add some white to it. I'm seeing some areas down here where I could add a little bit of that turquoise in with my waves. So it's just a lighter turquoise layer. Maybe don't want that much. This is drying really well. The turquoise underneath, it dried pretty quickly, so It wasn't bad at all. It was perfect timing, actually, really. I did it early on because I wanted it to dry for this layer, so it worked out pretty good. It's amazing how it looks, how real it looks, isn't it? Like from, you know, like looking at it on the monitor there from the reference photo. Pretty cool. I'm going to put a little bit of this turquoisey white up in the sand area. It's got a little bit of the glaze, a little bit of the white mixed in there. What do you think, honey? You see anything that I missed? I might need a little highlight on this rock here. Maybe a little bit on this one. You really don't want to do too much up in here where you've already done the green, so. That's good. I think what I'm going to do is, even though this sand is, yeah, I think I'm going to use a little bit of the white and some water here on a paper towel. You could use glazing liquid if you're worried about it not rubbing in, but I'm going to add a little bit of highlight to my sand. Just a little bit of thinned out water there. Just get a little bit of contrast there. You could even use a little bit of brown, maybe. Don't want it too dark, but just add a little something. I'm really basically just staining that sand, adding a little color in a couple places, so it's just not like a big splotch of white in that corner, you know. It does have a little bit of texture. And I'm going to go ahead, I can see a little bit of white, a little bit up higher too, so I'm going to add a little bit of our white up there too. All right, I'm going to call that good. What do you think, hon? Good? Are you listening? Mm-hmm. Okay.
It looks good to me, but, you know,
right.
Sometimes I know you ask me questions. You're not actually asking me questions. So I'm making sure you're really asking me a question.
I am asking you a question. I am. For real. I'm going to sign it. I'm going to use my pen to sign it, see if it'll go over this. Yeah, it's... Oh, nope. It's sticking in there. Oh, no, it's not dry. I'm gonna have to do it with the brush. Let me see if I can get that off there. That was pretty thick right there, so not surprised. It's not fully dry down there. Let's see. Let's use our turquoise to sign it. Add a lot of water to your paint when you're signing. You can add a little glazing liquid if you want to make sure it sticks, but I think it'll be fine since it's going to be varnished over. right, there we go. Almost disappearing into the water there, signature. Let me do one more layer of the white now that I'm seeing this drying. I'm going to go ahead and go in here with this and go a little bit brighter right along that edge. Okay. An hour and a half, not bad. Pretty fun project. Hope you try it. If you do, you can share it with me. I've got all my links to my social media down in the description there. And if you want a traceable for this to get yourself started, you know, drawing all the rocks and everything, you can find that at Patreon, patreon.com/AngelaFineArt. You can sign up for the $1 level, and there are traceables for basically all of the paintings since 2017 that I've done on there. It's $1 a month for unlimited downloads. So
Right now, prices may vary.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending
Yeah,
how far in the future
it'll
you
go up
are.
a little bit later on this year, up to $2, but right now it's still $1. And those who are signed up will stay at $1, no matter how much it goes up
In
later.
like
So
2075, it might be $10, but
probably, yeah. You never know.
we'll see.
You never know.
We'll see then the
Right.
pricing.
Yeah, this is not a future guarantee of prices, for sure. But yeah, and also you can search for the traceables on thankfulart.com and find out our list of upcoming videos and other information on there. So yeah, I think that's it. Join our Facebook group if you want to share some paintings with us, the things you've painted from my tutorials, and yeah.
Yeah, all that social media is down below the
Got
video.
all kinds of stuff going on online. So
Instagram,
yep,
Twitter,
exactly.
Facebook.
Right.
What's that one I always forget? Pinterest.
Pinterest. Yeah,
And you'll be posting pictures of the remodel.
I will be on the Thankful Art group.
Thankful Art
I'll
group.
be doing before pictures, and then this week, and then
Pictures of us before and after.
we should do that. I think I'll lose a little hair over this. I'm pretty sure. I'm expecting to my alopecia to crop its ugly head there. Who knows? Hopefully not. Fingers crossed. We'll see. All right, guys. Thanks. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we will see you next time.
Next
Bye.
Saturday.